Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We're going to talk about the tropics today. I know we've seen a week of rain and we're finally starting to get out of that. We'll focus on the local weather as things improve going into the weekend, and they are, trust me, even though there's some scattered showers and storms still in the forecast. But I want to put everybody's mind at ease, at least for right now, on what is Tropical Storm Erin right now. Let's start with the wide view because this is really important. I think in the age of social media, we hear so much stuff online. A lot of it is garbage. It's not great information. You know me, I'm a straight shooter. I'm just going to tell you straight, going to make you aware without making you alarmed. And trust me, there's not every storm is going to be a threat to you or your family, but you need to pay attention to every storm, and you need to do it even when things look like they're not going to hit us. You still got to pay attention for changes. But that all being said, here's our storm. And what is crazy about this system, and I'm going to pause this one more time as it loops through, is it feels like I've already been talking about it for a week. And you're probably saying, yeah, you have. Because remember, last Saturday, it developed off the coast of Africa. That was 5 days ago. And it is just now making it to the middle of the Atlantic. So remember, when these storms are way out there, they're not going to sneak up on us. We've got plenty of time to watch it, and there's no need to get concerned when they're this far out. But going into the weekend, it is a time to start paying a little bit closer attention, especially if you're on the coast, because we're waiting for it to see it make this turn to the north. We'll zoom in a little bit closer and show you the close-up view. It's been dealing with some dry air, some wind shear, and what is called marginal sea surface temperatures. The water temperatures there aren't super warm where it's over, but that is going to be changing coming up pretty shortly. The forecast, I want to show you, it's going to update here by the time this video goes out. I already know the forecast update, so I can share it with you. It's actually going to come out just a little bit further north and staying kind of in between the US and Bermuda. But the reason I'm showing you this graphic is I want to show you the water temperatures. Where it is right now, the water temperatures are warm, but they're not super warm. In the next 24 to 36 hours, two things happen. The storm moves over much warmer water. You can see it right there. Less wind shear and less dry air. So we're anticipating rapid intensification, which means the storm could go from a tropical storm to a category 3 in about a 24-hour period. There's an outside chance this could jump up to a Cat 4, but you see the consensus or the average of the guidance is somewhere right in there. And so that's what we're expecting this weekend. So this is going to get more attention because, one, it's getting closer, but also it's going to get a lot stronger and a lot bigger. So definitely need to start paying attention to it. Now, I'm going to go over some of the steering currents right now. The wide steering currents, we can see the storm. It's right there. It doesn't look like a whole lot. Let me move my graphic here just a little bit so I can kind of show you what's going to happen. We'll go through time a little bit. You see what's steering the storm right now. It's this big ridge of high pressure. That's that area in red. This is essentially like a big gear in the atmosphere. Anything has to go around it. There's like little teeth in it. So you got the idea. It's taking the storm and it's driving it west. But what's going to happen this weekend, this is Friday, this is really tonight into Friday, sometime over the weekend, we expect that ridge to start breaking down. And right now it looks like it's going to start happening late Saturday, but most likely Sunday. And you'll see what happens by Sunday morning. This is about 8 o'clock in the morning. The ridge breaks down. And what that means is the ridge reestablishes back to the west of the U.S. A heat dome develops there. The ridge backs up and goes back to the east. And there's a weakness right there. You see that weakness? Right there as a dip in the jet stream comes in from the north. So all this steering current is going to want to pull it to the north at some point. The question always is, when does that turn happen? And the strength of the storm can dictate how quickly or slowly that actually happens. The stronger the storm, sometimes it takes a little bit more time to do that. The weaker, it can get moved around a little bit easier. But right now, it does look like it's going to make that turn because this is a pretty significant weakness that has been in all of the guidance for days. In fact, it looks a lot stronger from a weakness standpoint than it did a couple days ago, that's going to be there. Now, the ridge back to the east is going to try to build again, and that could start to push it back to the west. But the other thing, remember, this ridge, not only does it drive it west, the flow around high pressure is clockwise. So while it was initially driving it west, on the west side of the ridge, the flow is like this. It's to the north. So even if this ridge gets stronger and starts backing up, it's still going to want to push it north, even if it's pushing it a little bit northwest. And also, this ridge is going like this, pushing like that, while this is moving like this. So you can see all the steering currents here. It's going to want to do this. Always the million-dollar question is, does it get close enough to clip the U.S.? So let's get into some of the guidance and the information. I'm a big fan of the ensembles. I love super ensembles. Some of these new guidance coming out, people like Tomer Berg here, it's just amazing. I love looking at this because it really kind of illustrates all of the data, not one single piece to post on social media, but all of the data. And if you look at what they call the super ensemble, all of the runs of the various global models, there's a pretty good indication of recurvature, right? The green is in yellow is moderate, confidence. There's still an outliers back close to the Outer Banks and even some east of Bermuda, but you get the idea on all of that. We can look at this at different perspectives. One of the things I like to look at is break down the individual guidance. These are all the individual model runs. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you can see full transparency. The European model, deterministic, that's a single run. That is going to be the dashed line. That is the furthest west, but even that one is right between the Outer Banks and Bermuda. The mean of that is much further east. The GFS, the dashed green line, is pretty much right on the solid green line, which means its ensemble mean, or the average, and its deterministic run are about the same. UK Met is this dashed blue line. It's a little further west. And then the Canadian model is kind of the pink. But the thing you notice here is all of the guidance, just like I showed you with the super ensemble, is all within this range with the confidence being right in there, right? So AI modeling is a big part of this season. It's a new development. Google has spent a lot of money on this. They're working with the Hurricane Center. Let's look at the Google AI modeling. It's very consistent as well. It does some ensembling. And so this is AI driven. You can see it's in the same boat. It's essentially even further east. So again, this is experimental. AI modeling is relatively new, but just in full transparency, it's further east. It's actually closer to Bermuda as well. So all in all, you're looking at a lot of confidence that this is going to be pretty far to the east and staying away from the US. But there's a big caveat here. Starting tonight actually, hurricane hunters are going to start checking out Erin. They're going to send out the P3, which if you're not familiar with that, I talked a lot about this when the budget cuts were coming up, hoping that they were not being going to be cutting back on the NOAA aircraft. They have Doppler radar in the tail. They do research. They collect a lot more data than the regular hurricane hunters for modeling and research. So both of those planes, both the hurricane hunters and the P3 are going out there. So the possibility of some much better data coming into the models tonight and tomorrow could be another thing that impacts the forecast. So one of the things we'll be watching is once we get the plane out there, does any of the ensemble modeling begin to change? Does it change the forecast thinking? Where is this thing going to go is still a question, especially for folks on the East Coast. Now, everybody on the East Coast should be paying attention to this because even if it stays offshore, it's still going to produce giant swells, rough surf, and possibly coastal flooding. Now, one thing that NOAA could do, and it'll be interesting to see if they actually do that, the strength of these ridges. Now, remember the hurricane hunters fly through the storm, right? They go out there and what they do is they crisscross the storm like this. The NOAA upper air missions, they will fly around here and do zigzags and do all this, usually in the steering current, somewhere around, usually somewhere ahead of it. And they're sampling the other atmosphere to see how strong that ridge is, how strong that trough is, and how strong this ridge is. That's important. They actually sample the steering currents to give us a good idea. The weather balloons over the United States can also help us see how strong this ridge and how strong this trough is. No weather balloons, obviously, over the ocean. There's no land and there's no weather balloon launches. But if we had a plane out there to do that, Global Hawk as an upper air missions, a drone, they could do that. So knowing what's going on out here, especially over the Atlantic, is key. So the Hurricane Hunter mission will be very crucial as it flies out there later tonight and tomorrow. And we'll see if the super ensembles stay true to their form. Now, I mentioned, hey, I kind of know where this is going to go. Let me quickly drag my map over here. I'm going to do this on the fly. So one of the things I look at quite a bit is the consensus track. The Hurricane Center track right now is the white dots. The consensus track, or what we call the TVCM or TVNCM, depending on what acronym you like to use. It's essentially what we call the consensus. All the models, it's a super blender. And this is what the Hurricane Center will use. So I mentioned, I kind of know what they're going to do. You're probably going to see it line up pretty close to the red, which you can already see here. Look, the forecast usually lines up pretty well. So the next forecast is likely going to be here. One thing that is a little bit of a concern is how strong some of the guidance is going now that the consensus is for a category 4 in here. So as I mentioned, this is going to be a big storm. Even with the recurvature, this thing is going to be pushing out some giant swells towards the coast of the United States. So if you're on the beach or on the East Coast, don't think there's no impact. even if it's not direct, there's going to be some massive swells, rip currents, and maybe even coastal flooding. So as of right now, that's kind of what we're thinking as far as Erin is concerned. The weekend will be key. We'll have Hurricane Hunter data. It'll start to make this churn, possibly becoming a major hurricane. So a lot will happen this weekend. And just from a timing standpoint, this general area here, if it's somewhere between the Carolinas and Bermuda, that's probably going to be Wednesday, Thursday in that time frame next week. Sunday, Monday, right here, beginning to make that turn.